Good afternoon. I'm Sherman Chow. That press conference just wrapping up where we are hearing shocking statements about what led to the conviction of Alfred Brown and then his release in 2015. Now the DA says that Brown is an innocent man. Jessica Borg live downtown with details. Jessica.
DeWayne Brown was a former death row inmate freed in 2015 after the state's highest criminal court ruled that the government violated his rights by not turning over evidence that supported his alibi. Now, Brown was convicted in the deaths of HPD officer Charles Clark and store clerk Alfred Jones during a robbery in 2003. In 2005, he was sent to prison. Today, Harris County DA Kim Ogg and Special Prosecutor John Raley announced that after re-examining the case, it has been determined that Brown was innocent. Now, the DA says she reopened the case to see whether to re-indict him to declare his innocence or have things be the status quo. In other words, leave it as a case where charges were dismissed, but no declaration of innocence was ever made. They say after an extensive review, more than 1,000 man-hours, it has been determined that Brown was innocent and wrongfully convicted because of prosecutorial misconduct at the time. That former Assistant DA Dan Rizzo jumped to conclusions about the case, and he was not fair or thorough.
The thrust of the report is Alfred DeWayne Brown. The evidence shows that he was not present at the crime scene and therefore is actually innocent of the charges against him, could not have been guilty of the murder of Officer Clark. It had to have been someone else besides Alfred DeWayne Brown. That was certainly wrong.
Now, Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg says she might have a judge review her office's allegations of misconduct to see if that's an avenue to pursue. The Houston Police Officers Union has always maintained that Brown was involved in the deaths in this case. The president of the police union is expected to speak shortly about this matter and react to what was announced here at this press conference a short time ago. And as soon as those statements are made available, we will, of course, bring that to you both on television and online. We should note that 2 men remain in prison because of the murders of police officer Clark and store clerk Alfred Jones. We'll have much more coming up live on KHOU 11 News. For now, we are live downtown. Jessica Borg, Sherman, back to you.
All right, a decade in prison for Mr. Brown. Thank you, Jessica.